coming to yourself, David, speaking of the Premiership, you yourself, in your early career, you played a part for the Newcastle Falcons when they won the 97-98 Premiership. That must have been a pretty special time.
Yeah, a long time ago now. I used to have hair back then, so yeah, it was. It was a very special time. I was a young student just finishing up at university, and got asked to join. It was pretty much a rugby revolution at the time. Rugby had just gone pro, and Rob Andrew had gone up to Newcastle, and given the money by Sir John Hall, was able to go out and buy pretty much a dream team of players. From Ireland, obviously we had Nick Popperwell there, who taught me quite a lot actually about playing on the field and also a fair bit about playing off the field. But it was a great team to be part of. Doddy Weir, you had your Dean Ryan's, and then you had probably one of the best players I've seen on the field in Inga Tuingamala, who came over from rugby league probably a year before I joined, and was an absolute revelation in what he could do and how he could play and the levels of professionalism he brought to the side. And it's certainly a highlight of mine to be part of something so special. But I look back now, and I think in those days a crowd of sort of 4,000 was a big crowd, and nowadays the crowds have increased and the game's increased as a spectacle, and it's moved a long way since those days.
And it was actually, I think it was during that 97 time when you were involved for the first time, I think, with the England A team, and that must have been pretty special as well.
It was. I was very lucky that I toured with the England under-21s under Clive Woodward in '97, and when I went up to Newcastle, he'd taken over as the senior coach of England, and he remembered who I was and picked me for the England A side at quite a young age, and played a couple of games there, and I don't think I've ever actually told anyone this, but I played the full season of England A. I think we played Ireland at Richmond actually that year, and there's a chance of going on the tour to Australia, which became known as the Tour of Hell after England got beaten, I think 76-0. But I was asked to play in before the end of the season. Newcastle had finished, and Mike, who's also obviously on this conference, asked me to play in his sevens team, the Colpitts Cavaliers, in a Durham pub sevens competition, which I duly did. And when running down the wing, which props should never do, I tore my hamstring for the first time in my career. About 4 weeks before that tour squad was picked. I remember limping back into the club the next day, obviously not telling anyone that I played in a pub rugby tournament, and that ruled me out for a few weeks. So maybe that was the turning point in my career.
What a team, though! What a team on your CV. You would never have that off the CV, playing for the Colpitts Cavaliers.
I'm not sure if it was the hamstring injury that I did, or the fact that you guys made me go out to the pub straight afterwards that stopped me getting the recovery I needed.
Brilliant stuff. You're a Leicester lad, David. Now, have you ever had kind of the desire to play for the Tigers? No doubt you would have when you were growing up, or that you would have always kept a close eye.
I did. It's one of those things when you grow up in, I grew up in Leicester, and certainly, I used to go down to Welford Road and watch the Tigers, and always wanted to be part of it. But being at Bath for so long, they're certainly the arch enemy, and Bath has become my adopted home. And the Bath-Leicester games are always very, very special, given the history that, there's changed a bit now, but they were the strong sides through the sort of late 80s and 90s, and those games were always a big, great occasion to play in.
Mike, it's great to hear up of a player, that you might grow up in one area or you're from an area, and then you go on to be such an iconic figure for a club that's their arch enemies or that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the statistics for Barnsley, up until only a few games ago, when I think his great friend Duncan Bell overtook him, when he retired last year, he had 266 league games under his belt over 11 seasons. So I think you found your spiritual home in Bath, Dave. What is it about the place, and in particular the club, that really sort of resonated with you?
I think I was just lucky to be at Bath for, it's a small town that there is no football team there. The town is very much based around the rugby club, and I think anyone who's travelled to Bath to watch rugby, and the ground is right there in the middle of Bath, and on a warm summer's day it is absolutely beautiful. You've got people climbing on the roofs to watch the rugby. You feel very, you're playing in a very special place. And obviously the history of the club, that it's not been so much silverware in the last few years, but it's certainly a club when you turned up that you realised that you were going to a club that wanted to be successful again. And before I got there, they'd never lost a final, ever lost a final. I think I lost 5, so maybe now I've gone, they can start winning again.
Brilliant stuff. And what was it like, David? You played alongside some fantastic loosehead props in your career, the likes of Jason Leonard and Andrew Sheridan.
Yes, I was lucky. When I went down, the reason I left Newcastle quite early on was I had the opportunity to go down to Harlequins, and Jason Leonard was there, and it was an opportunity to go and learn from him. And something I always took from Jason through my career is, even though I was competing for Jason, he obviously didn't see me as too much of a threat, I don't think, but he used to help me massively, and it was something that I tried to carry through the rest of my career in terms of helping the youngsters out and bringing them through, because that's what makes a good club. It's professionalism's there, and obviously you want to play every week, but you've still got to try and bring through the junior members of the club, and something that Jason was great at doing. And for the Irish guys, I was also lucky enough to play up or next to Keith Wood, who I think I still remember playing against Northampton when he dropped a goal, of all things, from. But that was a sign of the man. He could do anything, and you could be having a horrendous game, and suddenly Woody would pop up and most likely fly hack the ball through and go charging up the field, and it would just lift the team. And in terms of one guy who can lift a team, it was he's the best I've sort of seen at that. Absolutely.
On an international level, David, I mean, I know you were involved, I think, in 2006 for an England 15 side against the Barbarians and the England Saxons, I think, at the 2006 Churchill Cup, and that. Are you a little bit disappointed that perhaps you didn't get a larger crack at a whip at international level? Because I know a lot of English fans have been, they were touting you in the late 2000s and even right up to the 2009 autumn internationals. They wanted to see you in that side.
I think I'll always look back and wish I played a bit more. I was in the squad when Clive Woodward pulled me in, first of all, in 97, and never quite broke through. I did play against the Barbarians for England, but I think back in 2009 I had a call up and I thought my days had gone, really, and I got into the squad, and then things were looking all right for that autumn international period, and then my teammate Duncan Bell, who's obviously had his problems this week, but my teammate Duncan Bell decided to go into a ruck with his eyes closed and took my knee out in the week of a game. So there was my chance, which I thought I had. This is my final chance to get my cap, and taken away from me. But no, I was very fortunate, and there were some good players playing at the same time. But obviously, I wish I would have had a cap. But I've been very fortunate to have a long career and a lot. The way the game is now, many players aren't lucky enough to play the amount of years I did without injury, which I feel very fortunate for.
Certainly, and now, like, you were very fortunate regarding injuries. I mean, obviously, the injury inflicted on you by Duncan Bell going into a ruck or that. I mean, at the same time now, you're the chairman of the Rugby Players Association. It's a great trade union representing the players, people who have played rugby and are continuing to play rugby in England, and not just at a professional level, but also at a semi-professional level. And I think the original body was established in 98, but you probably felt yourself that there was always need for something like that.
Absolutely. I think that when rugby turned professional, the owners all came in who were big businessmen who knew how to sort of run successful businesses, but unfortunately the players were treated very much like machines, really, like something that they could be used, and no real regard for what happened to their bodies or the toll it was taking. And the players need to be looked after. We've come a long way now from that, I have to say, and there's a very good joined up approach. and the players are a lot better looked after. But it's a very attritional game. I've come across many players in my career who believe they'll play till 30, 35 and will retire injured at the age of 22, 23. It's something where we're very conscious about, and we need to make sure that the players are well protected financially, with insurance and the rest of it. But also, we spend a lot of time, a lot of resources getting them to look at what's going to happen when that day does come, and it could come next week or next year or 10 years. And so we do a lot of work getting them almost like a dual career, really, so that if that transition comes, they can make it as seamless as possible.
I know, because I know you guys, you've done a kind of an injured players fund where you kind of raise money for professional players who have gotten seriously injured, and I think you were with a group that went up Kilimanjaro last year, and you shared a tent with Andy Blythe. He was actually paralysed, I think, a few years back. So I mean, it's great to be able to share that and bring attention to it.
It is, and I think that anyone who watches rugby or anyone who plays rugby is very aware of that big injury that can happen. Obviously, we hope it never does, but when it does happen, it's the charities that are there are simply amazing at helping the families, and obviously those players put their lives back together. Andy Blythe was an inspiration to me. 11 years after being told he'll never walk again. He was laid up for 11 months without being able to move in bed, and 11 years later he gets to the top of Kilimanjaro, and it is an inspiration to me to do that with him. And I'm feeling especially sore today as I still don't know why I did it, but I did the marathon on Sunday to raise money for the injured players. It's as I say, the great thing about rugby is we're a community, and we do rally round, and that for me is why I love the game.
Yeah, Mike, no matter what happens to you injury-wise, the dedication amongst these players is always there.
Yeah, it's tremendous to see. We have got a community, and it's great to see that even though the game is fully professional and we've sort of, we've moved on from the first couple of years when clubs were kind of finding their feet, that still that whole community rallies round if there's an injury, and we really try and look after them. So I think the Rugby Players Association does a great job, and in particular Barnsley, who flies the flag for that sort of